new podcast is downloaded for you, sir. On the first episode of the Fully Charged Show podcast, did Jonny get lost on his way home?
I charged it in next to Abu Dhabi Zoo.
Am I doubting my abilities to present the YouTube show? So, when that episode comes out, just don't bother to watch it. And has Jonny got a radical new diet plan?
Potato, potato, potato.
On with the show! Hurrah! Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Fully Charged podcast. My name is Robert Llewellyn.
My name is Jonny Smith.
And we're currently recording this in a really exciting high-tech way that we've just... This is our first one, isn't it? It really is the first one, Jonny.
It's a podcast debut for Fully Charged. It's exciting because I've not casted for a long time.
No, I suppose over the years I've casted around a bit here and there, but no, it's certainly not been a regular thing. But so what we're going to do is I really want to dive straight into kind of news stories that we could cover on the Fully Charged News, but there's so many of them that's really one of the reasons we wanted to do this. Was there's a lot of other things. That first story is about China and the Chinese electric car industry. The headline is it's leaving Detroit, Japan and Germany in the dust. I mean, I'm always sceptical of that kind of journalism where this is from the MIT Technology Review, but it's when there's this is the Tesla killer. And it's someone who's made one car, and that's the Tesla killer. And Tesla are currently producing around 8,500 cars a week. When I checked the other day, so they're busy.
Exactly, you've got to check the substance from the headline. I mean, yes, Japan are bringing out some interesting stuff. Yes, Germany are a bit late to the game, but China are huge. China are a sort of influencing the route that most car manufacturers are going down now, because they're India and America, I guess, the biggest consumers of cars. And will be for the foreseeable future. Whether they want to buy the most expensive cars, that's another matter.
Yeah, but I mean, they're making them. I mean, that's the thing, is that they're making them in China. I think that's really because I can remember, even in the time I've been knocking around, and you must have seen this as well for longer than me, but I remember seeing a collection of BYD cars probably 8 years ago at a car show, and they were, even I could tell, they were a bit shonky. They just didn't, they looked, I thought, God, that looks like it would just be dangerous. It would look like everything would fall off if you hit a lamppost, and most of it would go through your stomach. Or the steering wheel would take your head off. They just didn't look safe, and they didn't look European. They looked wobbly and loose. But the most recent ones I've seen, that's where I lose my finesse of being able to judge. But they look so much better. They look like they've really caught up very, very quickly.
The rate of evolution of China, the Chinese car industry is so much quicker than what we've seen, first of all with the Japanese back in the 60s and 70s, and then with the Koreans, I guess, in the 90s. If you look at Kia and Hyundai, they've developed very quickly.
Yes,
I've come a hell of a long way quickly, but nothing compared to China.
No.
I think I was out at the Shanghai Motor Show in 2012,
right,
2013, and some of the cars were awful, but there was an abundance of cars. It was like the car industry in the early 1900s, where there were loads of cottage car industries that sprouted up, and that only a third of them are going to survive.
But some of them have. I mean, the Neo is obviously the big one that I've heard of, but there's the lists of them are extraordinary. But here's the one thing that really caught my eye on this article, which is in the MIT Technology Review. It's very interesting. Which is Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So they're kind of relatively clever people that work there. I don't know that you and I would have got in.
I think it's safe to say that I probably wouldn't. No. I'd be emptying the bins.
Yeah, outside. I could do the bins, or I could work in the kitchens. Because I like to say I went to Oxford in the 1970s, which I did. I lived there. I was in Oxford, but I did work in the kitchens. I was in one of the colleges making breakfast for depressed students. But this is the thing that caught my eye, which is because I don't know anything about like taxation or you have to buy a license plate. I understand that now in China, in much the same way as you do in America, like a way of taxing vehicles. But if you want to buy an internal combustion engine and you live in Shanghai, that license plate will cost you $14,000, which is unimaginable, isn't it? I mean, if you think of what the average income in China is, we know it's gone up a lot since the days of Mao Zedong and the Cultural Revolution, but that's a lot of money for anyone.
Yes.
But the cost of an electric vehicle license plate is zero. So that gives you the indication that they're quite keen to encourage them.
And it's because, I suppose, with this massive rate of industrial revolution that they've had and technology, with it has come the problems they've had with air quality. And they've had to make very quick decisions on how to improve air quality and reduce the whole smog issue and stuff like that. So what's interesting about China is watching how, as outsiders, seeing how quickly they make the rules and implement them. And move the game on. But 14 grand versus zero.
I
think the EV incentive is clear. Is it not?
It is fairly. You don't have to kind of ponder in the showroom going, I don't know, it's so hard to make the decision.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're buying a car that's so high end that the brand clearly has such a high draw. But even then, those brands are starting to bring in plug-in product. So.
But actually, there's another little fact that I hadn't noticed before on this article, that we're talking of what you saw at the motor show in China about cottage industry cars. The number of electric vehicle companies that have launched in China since 2013 is 487.
Oh my goodness! I didn't realise it was that many.
I didn't know.
487.
So you're right. I mean, out of those, probably 25 or 30 might survive and grow into bigger companies. But that's 25 or 30 new car companies. I mean, clearly, and that's a very small percentage of that total. Could be bigger than that, but I mean, it's staggering that there's that many.
I think the the chances of the classic electric car hobbyist growing and growing in the future, I think is already laying its foundations there, because you're going to have veteran classic. Veteran electric cars of like, do you remember the Guangdong
P350?
Yeah, you go, it was really uncomfortable and it looked awkward. I've got one. I've got the only one that anyone wanted.
And has it got the original roll-up rattan doors? Because they were brilliant.
Exactly. And I'm honestly, I'm really looking forward to that. The sort of the geeking out of the cottage industry of the maybe slightly failed electric cars which have survived. Yeah. And someone's lovingly restored. Yeah. I love that. Wow, 487.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, all the numbers that you can do, because there were the one. I remember I read a story that was last year where Leicester, the city of Leicester, had started using their first electric bus, and there's someone sent me a picture of it. It's a picture of the mayor of Leicester standing next to their first electric double-decker bus, and they're very proud of it. But on the same day, Shenzhen in China took 16,000 diesel buses off the streets and replaced them with 16,000. 16,000. There are now 40. I've looked the story up to check the figures. There are now 40,000 electric buses. There are no diesel buses at all. There's no combustion engine buses in the city. And that is a city that I think it was like 25 years ago had a population of sort of 10,000, and it's now 13 million. So it's just
my goodness.
All those numbers are so. But so they have just said, look, no more diesel buses. We can't do it. Let's have electric ones. But to be able to make that many electric buses is staggering.
And by them making that many, surely the knock-on effect to us in the West will be we can obtain electric buses.
Yes.
And European manufacturers of buses and other commercials will go, right, we need to pull our trousers up a bit here and actually start building some competing product. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. And I do get a bit bored of. I followed a coach the other day, and it was really loud. It obviously had the air conditioning units and stuff in the back.
When you're behind them, particularly, I've noticed that when I'm on a bike in London and you go behind a big luxury coach, the noise at the back, even when it's not moving, the amount of energy it's using to maintain all its systems. You can't really hear the engine, just hear fans. amazing.
It is ridiculous. And also, those are the kinds of vehicles where being heavy isn't really a problem.
Yeah.
So, come on. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. But I think the other thing, which kind of leads into the next story, but the other thing that I think is interesting is the very common thing we're hearing now is the enormous waiting list there are for in this country. We can talk specifically the UK. Enormous waiting list there is for electric cars, and the excuse me, and the reasons given for it is battery shortages, and there aren't enough batteries, and we can't make them because we don't have the batteries.
Well, it's because they're too busy making buses in China. That's what it is.
Have used all the batteries in their buses. I mean, if you think of the gigawatt hour capacity of 60,000 electric buses, I mean, they're churning them out by the shipload, or even bigger. I mean, there's pictures of car parks full of thousands of electric buses. It's unbelievable, and they're big things. These are single decker kind of long coaches, but they're big. It's just amazing. I mean, if you think how many Hyundai Konas that would supply batteries for, it's 100,000 probably. I don't know what size battery capacity those buses have, but I would imagine it's quite. But then
China has 3 times as many planned battery plants as the rest of the world combined.
Right. Yeah.
According to this MIT.
Yeah. I mean, it's growing at such a rate, but one of the I think it's going to become a more crucial topic, and it's certainly something that I think is solvable, but is the materials that are going into the materials that are being used. So I've just recently had a kind of spate of tweets about the toxicity of lithium extraction. But whenever you get that, I then get someone from Imperial College or someone from a mining company that goes, well, it's not quite that simple. Here's the report which says da 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 da. It's not black and white.
No, it's not black and white. And I think also a lot of the time when this point is raised by people who are still very sceptical about electric power, how much have they actually delved into the production of fossil fuels?
And it's lithium is a very easy story, because you can just say, oh well, lithium's in lithium-ion batteries because it's in the name. It's actually 2% of the battery's mass in any one battery. It's a very small amount of lithium is used in a battery. Right. A lot of other things, cobalt, and the one I was going about is cobalt. That Tesla are now developing cobalt-free batteries is about the most important news, because cobalt is the mining of cobalt is very destructive. It's very destructive, and only in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is not a very politically benign place to be a miner if you're 12 years old. So then you see those stories about the kids that are sent down the mines. It's absolutely appalling. But then you find out it's less than 0.2% of world cobalt is mined by artisanally. I think that's how because it's called artisan mining.
Yeah,
I think I pronounced that wrong, but let's just smooth over that.
I like it when you talk dirty. That's not what this podcast was originally planned for. That's not what this podcast
is about. No, but yes, it's less than 0.2% of global cobalt production comes from those mines, and of that, it's a very small percentage that involves children. That said, there still are some kids that are going down holes in their mum's kitchen, where they've dug the hole because they're not meant to do it. It's illegal, and
that's
they're
what.
Doing it and,
Right. Okay.
terrible.
That's artisan mining. It's kind of like just finding an area and just digging it.
Well,
and
it's
see
literally
in
their house. They'll dig a hole in the kitchen. They'll climb down there. And then because it's sort of a bit like The Great Escape. They're presumably walking around outside, throwing. They've got pockets.
Emptying their trousers of dirt.
I don't know.
Well, the point is already. Many companies, not just Tesla, are trying to find that solution.
Yeah.
But before we get to the point where electric cars are out there by the million, they're already looking for that kind of the alternative, the more ethical alternative for the precious components.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing. There's a company we're going to go and see this year for Fully Charged that have apparently, and I don't know anything about it, but have apparently developed a successful. Soon commercially available solid state battery. So that uses carbon as its main component. So really common, cheap material. And I'm really recyclable, and also can be. It's the charge and discharge times are effectively infinite. They're talking about like the when we went to see the supercapacitors and the ultracapacitors in
yes.
They can be charged and discharged 1 million times, and that's a similar number for solid state batteries. I'm still skeptical. I mean, I think solid state batteries will happen, and this one story that I don't want to talk about yet because we're going to do an episode about it, but there are claims now that they are on the verge of commercializing solid state batteries, which would be genuine.
That is exciting.
Genuine game changer.
Yeah, that is. That's a proper flag in the ground.
But there's this great story I just stumbled across by accident, which is on the BBC. So it's got to be true because we know the BBC are 100% trustworthy. But the BBC News thing, which is basically about the rapidly emerging ocean floor mining technology, which is to get products like copper, lithium, cobalt. If you think of the world is 2/3 covered in water.
Yeah.
So there's an enormous amount of stuff in the sea. We know about oil and gas because we've done that. And there's, massive ethical issues about mining the seabed. But what the really weird thing is, there was a ship in the 1970s in the Pacific that was doing ocean floor mining research. That was the official story. But actually, it was a secret CIA ship that was trying to reclaim a sunken Russian nuclear submarine.
Was it really?
Wasn't doing any sea mining, but in the process of doing the recovery of this submarine, which I can't now remember whether I think they did eventually get it, and the Russians,
Soviet
but
submarine.
they had to pretend they weren't getting it, and there were Russians watching them, and they were in the middle of the Pacific with this ship with big kind of drilling rigs and kit on it, and they were doing research. 1974.
Wow.
And they were looking for a Russian submarine had sunk. There was an accident. Had sunk on with its crew on board 6 years earlier. It was the K-129, and it had sunk 1,500 miles west of Hawaii while carrying ballistic nuclear missiles. So obviously, during the height of the Cold War, the Americans wanted to get that down. It was 3 miles deep.
3 miles.
That's how far. So then they wanted to recover it. But they had to pretend they weren't recovering it, and so they said they were doing deep sea mining. Well, what they did effectively was early research into the possibilities which are now being developed to do actual deep sea mining.
This is copper, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems to be mainly copper. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, which is becoming a more and more precious commodity.
Very, very.
As a lot of technology becomes mass market, like the electric car. Because I sat next to a guy on the plane who invested in stocks of precious metals and minerals.
Wow.
He was quite an old Australian bloke. But I told him that I was flying out to drive the Audi E-Tron as it happened, and he was coming back to the UK to see his daughter who lived there, and he was saying, "Oh yeah," he said, "I invest mostly in copper."
Wow.
He said, "Look at most of the components of electric cars.
Yeah, huge amount of copper.
There's more copper in it than anything else."
Yeah.
So it's like, "Ooh, okay, yeah, okay." Slightly off topic,
but it's definitely on. Yeah, deep sea. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the ethics and the kind of environmental impact of deep sea mining are pretty bad. But when you look at a copper mine on land surface, that has some impact. I mean, it's certainly something. I guess. I mean, sometimes we get criticised because we don't cover those topics, and I think we should. Obviously, I mean, because it's a very important part of it, and certainly an easy criticism to make of the oil industry is. And particularly historically, is the damage that it's done to the environments that it's, the Niger Delta being a very good example of how not to extract oil. But, if you're then just not extracting oil, but you're extracting other materials. I mean, my argument is always, when you've extracted copper and you make an electric motor out of it, and 30 years later you take that copper out and you use it again. Once you've got a gallon of diesel and you've burnt it in a car, it's really hard to use that diesel again.
It is, and like you said, and it's taken perhaps 1 million years to be created.
Yes,
but I do think, I mean, the recent news, whenever it was last week, with China seeing the far side of the moon, and being able to analyse the far side of the moon for the first time, I couldn't decide whether I was particularly interested.
Right.
Only because they say that there's a chance that they might mine the moon, which breaks my little brain into thinking, is that a good thing? Should we be mining the moon?
Yeah.
and also the same with the sea. There's a lot down there, like there is in the Earth's core and the crust.
Yeah.
But you've got to work out the repercussions. The bigger picture of, if we do this for 10 years, is that okay?
Yes.
If we do this for 20 years, is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm a massive fan of sea creatures, and I know that this recent David Attenborough and Sky, I think, have been really instrumental in talking about the single-use plastics.
Exactly, yeah.
It has made me really think, like, bloody hell, there's so much gorgeous life in the sea.
Yeah.
And because we don't see it most of the time,
yeah,
it's that out of sight, out of mind attitude. And I love the fact that suddenly our eyes are open to the single-use plastic situation, where there's an island, a growing island.
Yeah.
Of
horrendous.
Just cellophane. And it is. Yes, should we talk about this more on Fully Charged? Well, I think everyone should be talking about it. It's just I don't think we're the leading authority on it necessarily. But
I mean,
it's getting deep, Robert. This is getting deep already.
Very deep. Because I mean, this is little factoids on this BBC page, is how much copper is in things. So in a mobile phone, it's 0.02 kilograms. And then in, hang on, because it's got all of them.
250 grams, yeah.
I've scrolled too fast. So in a laptop, laptop's 0.25. So what's that? That's 250 grams, isn't it, in a laptop?
That's 250 grams, yes.
Right. Then in an electric car, 83 kilograms, which sounds like a lot.
That's a lot, yes.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
Then in a wind turbine, 5.3 tons per megawatt.
Really?
And 15.3 tons, that's extraordinary, for offshore wind.
Well, that is why that bloke that I sat next to on the plane is investing in copper market stocks, because I don't think we're seeing any alternatives in the near future.
No.
And like
not for copper, no,
not for copper, and it lasts a long time. Copper does, and luckily it's easily recyclable, which is great. It's also a beautiful colour. It's
a lovely colour, and I mean, actually, when you think that's an appalling prospect, is because I've got an old laptop that still works, but I don't use it anymore, and I'm just going, I can't, you can't throw that out.
Even if you can't landfill it, certainly.
You can't landfill, and there's materials in it that are valuable. I mean, the battery, that was because it's about 7 years old. The battery is just, if it's not plugged into the mains, it's not on. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, actually, to that end, if there's any listeners who have got a top 3 or 4 companies, who can recommend sending that stuff to, because I know these companies come and go here and there, or charity. There are some charities, I think, too. Yeah, there are. If anyone wants to contact us, because I'd like to know. Yeah. Unless you know them, Robert.
I don't know them, but it would be a good thing. I mean, I think I've heard of certain things. There certainly are companies that you can recycle phones. I know about that. You can send your phone off, and they give you some money for it, and then they either use it again, or they
break it down.
They break it down, but they break it down really ethically. They don't just send it to China. Because China won't accept any of that anymore, which is very sensible. Sorry, there was a little bit of a sound effect in the back of there, which was actually an autoplay video, courtesy of the BBC, of the underwater mining machine being tested in a quarry.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'll play it again.
I thought it was an electric toothbrush or something.
Yeah, there it goes. It's quite cool. I'd like to have a go with it. It does that sort of thing.
I love all that.
With all big teeth that chew up,
As long as they leave the seahorses alone.
I know, because that's the worry, isn't it?
Because that's my worry. There's so much delicate, and also it's like the whole fracking thing of like, I understand what you can get out of it, but the repercussions are, as humans, we need water for lots of other things. Yes. And so don't forget that.
Yeah. Please try and remember that.
You do not wee in your own drinks.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we don't do that sort of thing.
Because then, the other story, now we've kind of done all this, we've covered all this so much, I don't want to just talk about bloody batteries, but there was this story about Panasonic, who make Tesla's batteries, are expanding in China, and then the Chinese government, Beijing, is loosening restrictions on foreign industries to invest there, and so they're increasing output, which is currently they're producing 5 gigawatt hours of batteries a year in China, which actually by today, I mean, that's huge, but by today's standards it's not that big, but they're increasing it by 80% in the next 2 years.
They're increasing it by 80%.
80%. So I don't know what. So, see, that's when we need one of those maths people with us, because I don't know what 80% more of 5 gigawatt hours.
Well, let's say it's nearly 10.
It's
Should we think? Because
really
maths is not something 10. I excelled at school.
No. I suppose, you're right.
English and art.
But you're clever. If it was 100%, it would make it 10 gigawatt hours, but it's only 80%.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
So anyway, but here's one we love, because we love Fastned in the Netherlands. There's an episode about Fastned coming very soon on Fully Charged.
There is. It's good. They're an interesting company. Very cool.
And one of the things we learnt from them was that they can spy on. I think it was the Porsche when we were in the offices, wasn't it? That they'd noticed that a Porsche was charging on their 150 kilowatt hour chargers.
Yeah, because they noticed that big spike, and they knew that no production car can do that at present.
Yeah. Well, they've now spotted an Audi E-Tron, which you've just driven, charging at 150 kilowatts.
Brilliant.
Which is great.
Brilliant.
Because when you test drove that, because I haven't even really spoken to you since you did that. I mean, A, did you like it, and B, did you charge it?
Well, A, let's do B first.
Okay.
B, I did charge it. I charged it in next to Abu Dhabi Zoo.
Right.
Which was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I charged it at 150 kW.
Ah, you did?
Yeah, it showed it. I never ran it down, the battery down a huge amount, so it didn't need like a massive squirt of energy.
Right.
But yeah, sure enough, I did.
Wow.
It was excellent. And it has the double charging port if you option it with it.
Oh, yes.
It's a very smart car.
Right.
You'll get the full review of it quite soon on an episode of Fully Charged. But I think the long and short of it is, for me, very smart, very attractive. I understand why it's an SUV. I wish it kind of wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame that it's so heavy and it's not made of aluminium, which seems to be was Audi's kind of USP for many years.
Right.
For their high-ranking cars. I think it's too heavy.
Right.
It's not brilliant at going around corners.
Right.
Compared to, let's say, the Jag I-Pace, which is
amazing.
The I-Pace is significantly cheaper.
Right. Oh, it is cheap. The I-Pace is cheaper than the E-Tron.
Yeah, the I-Pace is about 11 grand cheaper than the entry-level E-Tron.
Wow.
Which is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I think.
Wow, that's a big jump,
given that they're both luxury cars, they're both exciting cars, you know. And I do think the range is okay.
Right.
I'd like to see it in the real world in a colder country than the Arab Emirates. But one thing that I really am hopeful of with the e-tron is that it will help the badge, the power of the Audi badge and the SUV aesthetics will hopefully help to bring in a whole new swathe of people who maybe hadn't considered EV at all until now. And I think Audi. We can't forget Audi is a hugely successful brand and hugely aspirational to a lot of people. Yeah. And what I've basically done is I have just told you the verdict of my video.
Right. So when that episode comes out, just don't bother to watch it.
No, but there's a lot of more, really clever stuff in that car, and there's a lot of beautiful luxury too. So make no mistake, it's hopefully worth watching that. And it's again, it's another big player in the EV game, which I think is no bad thing. Yeah. No bad thing at all.
Now that the stories that that was a really good story. That that is good. Oh right, no, it's expensive. So because I remember seeing there was a guy in New York who's a biker that sent me an email probably 3 or 4 years ago. I think he might be mates of my friends in New York. I'm not sure. Can't remember the connection now. But anyway, he'd had a ride on a Harley-Davidson electric bike, and they told him, "Oh, this guy in England would love to hear about that." And he'd emailed me. He's a very sweet guy, and he's a proper kind of my age biker with a really big moustache that you see in America riding massive hogs. But he'd ridden this, but then that was, then I forgot about it because, Harley Davidson, very well-known brand, aren't going to be making electric bikes. Well, they're now in production, so that is great. So has this been launched at CES?
So CES, as we sit down and chat today, CES is on its second press day, I think. Yeah. And one of the things that a lot of people are talking about is Harley Davidson have launched the LiveWire, which is their first electric motorbike. Right. And what's interesting is yes, it's expensive. It's $30,000.
Because I've got no idea what would a big chunky Harley-Davidson petrol bike cost. I'd have no idea what they cost normally.
Well, they're an expensive bike anyway.
Right.
So for most Harley owners, it's not going to be a surprise that it's an expensive new Harley.
Right.
But from memory, I mean, you can easily pay £15,000 for a Harley.
Right.
So that's the thing about a Harley Davidson. It's such a powerful lifestyle brand, and they are not known for being technologically advanced. And that's what interests me about this bike is it's a naked bike, the LiveWire, so it's got no big fairings. It doesn't look futuristic particularly, but that's what's cool about it. So all the components are on display where the engine would have been.
But I reckon you could walk past it if it was parked on the street and not notice it was electric. I mean, unless you're a bit of a bike, if you're a bike aficionado, you would. But it looks like, to me, it looks like a motorbike with a big block thing in the middle that's probably some sort of engine thing. That would be my analysis of it.
It's got cooling fins. It looks attractive. It looks interesting. It's that whole thing. They're sort of celebrating the components rather than hiding them away. The other thing is bizarre. Harleys have always been known for being extremely loud, brash, and they're expensive. And this, I thought, then this is only the latter. Then it's just expensive. It's not loud and it's not brash, or is it?
Right.
Because according to Harley-Davidson's literature, it will still produce signature Harley-Davidson sounds.
Wow, okay.
So can we assume it's going to have some sort of robotic version of the classic potato V-twin? Which is, it could be embarrassing, but it also could be quite exciting. But I mean, Harley, like I say, not known for being an advanced brand anyway. They only launched a water-cooled version of their engine like 15 years ago.
Right. They're not cutting edge. They're not like sort of Japanese bikes that push to the limit and all that sort of stuff.
No, they don't. But they just keep on. They know what their fans, their worshippers want, I guess. The only disappointing thing for me so far that I can see, the bike looks great. It says it'll only do 110 miles on a charge. That's urban miles.
Right.
And the 3.5 seconds to 60, which for a car is fast, for a bike is not massively fast.
Right.
So I don't want to end it on a downer, but let's just try it. Let's just give it a try and see what it's like, shall we? I've got a friend who works for Harley-Davidson. I'm going to give them a nudge after this.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But well done for developing the bike.
Yeah.
HD.
Yeah.
Well done.
Because what other stories? I'm now looking for my stories. What other stories have come out of CES? I mean, it's kind of always slightly annoying CES, but I've been once and I was mildly annoyed.
Well, I've never been.
Right.
And what's interesting about CES is it's not classed as a car show, but yet it was named
become one,
this year.
It's
named as one of USA Today's 10 best automotive shows.
Oh, God, isn't that extraordinary? Wow.
Yeah, you're seeing more and more car brands sadly abandoning the more traditional car shows like Detroit, which is on next week on the 14th, and instead the showcasing parts of their car tech or entire cars at the CES. So this time we've got some pretty madcap stuff, which I would definitely class as concepts like the Hyundai ELEVATE.
Yeah, what the hell is that? Is that the walking car?
It's a mashup of it looks like a car that's had a dirty night with AT-AT from Star Wars. Star Wars. I don't know why I said Star Wars. Star Wars, because they've invented a car that can walk and can climb.
Wow.
Designed to boost the ability of first responders like paramedics in hard to access places and incident scenes.
Wow.
And it can also be used to enhance mobility options for all sorts of citizens, apparently. I'm wondering whether or not somebody at Hyundai has forgotten that the horse exists.
Yeah.
And that the motorbike exists.
Yeah.
There is such a thing as a motocross bike, and there's such a thing as an agile horse.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem. I think it's very, very specific use cases that might be.
It's properly out there.
Yeah.
It's and a load of other stuff at CES. There's a definite trend of home help robots, and huggable robots that can help cure loneliness. And these home help robots, I guess, are to helped solve the issue of an ageing population and the need for caring.
I've needed a couple of them in the last few days. Would have been very helpful.
Have you now?
Just to remind me of things.
Well,
Robert, you've made yourself a cup of tea and you've forgotten to drink it. It has now gone cold. Would you like me to reheat it? It's that. Oh yeah, thanks.
Robert, that is going to be really freaky. That in the future, when you are a less able man, you might be cared for by a version of the character you've been playing for many years.
Oh, wouldn't that be? I'd be very happy if he did my laundry, clean the loo. It's useful stuff.
That's totally going to happen. It's totally going to happen.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant and also scary. It's
also slightly scary. The other one that I saw, and I'd love to see how this works, which is CES. The CES, for those of you who don't know, is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we should have said that, shouldn't we? It was very unpro of me to have not said that.
Yeah, no, me too. Very bad. But it was actually while I was there 4 or 5 years ago.
Sounds like a sofa manufacturer.
Yes.
Really,
welcome to CES with 50% discount.
That's right.
Yeah. But it was
finance on all sofas in January and February.
Yeah. But I was there 3 or 4 years ago with Bosch, and they were doing their kind of autonomous vehicles, and they had a car that was going around Vegas that could effectively, as they described it, see around corners, which it doesn't. What it could do, if there was another car fitted with the correct Bosch sensors, it could see that car communicate with it, but it could also judge its speed. It would go, that car is going too fast, it's not going to stop at this junction where it's meant to, I'm going to slow down. It was that kind of computational complexity that they were developing. Well, Nissan have developed a technology that will allow vehicles to show drivers invisible dangers hidden behind buildings and around corners. So it sounds like they've taken the similar...
Oh, yeah, the invisible to visible, I to V.
Yeah. I like the fact that it's omnisensing. But you can just imagine
I was hoping you were going to say that in a soft American voice.
Yeah. This vehicle is fitted with omnisensing. Please slow down.
And omnisensing gathers real-time traffic data on the vehicle's immediate surroundings and allows... Well, what is it? It allows drivers... It shows drivers invisible dangers hidden behind buildings and around corners...
Yeah. And I think you just wouldn't move. You just sit there going, my God, there's a bird around the corner that I can't see that's flapping. And I don't know.
Presumably it's another step on for sort of semi or full autonomy. It lets a car anticipate and react to what's ahead, like a blind corner or a heavily pedestrianised area or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's a sort of step ahead in judging traffic levels, so traffic jams on your map and all that stuff, that's useful. Available spaces in car parks, that's useful. But I also want a thing I want a kind of mini drone that pulls my eyebrows towards where I park the car because I can't remember. Or a friendly robot that goes, Robert, you park the car on the next level. Because I walk around car parks beeping the horn on the Tesla, because you can beep the horn remotely, and I can hear it.
Oh, you do that?
Once. And it goes beep beep like that, and I can hear it, but then I can't find the bloody thing.
Can you imagine if there were hundreds of you walking around? I mean,
it'd just be so annoying,
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the one thing about that, the Nissan Invisible to Visible that I like is that it claims it'll make it more enjoyable, this experience more enjoyable, this tech, and present the info in a more human manner using avatars, etc. So I don't know what that really means.
No, I don't know what that means.
What I do know is like you say, Nissan are doing it, Bosch have done it, and Bosch are doing more and more autonomous stuff because, of course, their tech gets used by a lot of OEMs.
By a lot of other people, yeah.
And Delphi Technology is another company which is at CES today, showcasing it, a self-aware system, which is a powertrain controller that knows what's around a corner and adjusts the speed and brakes accordingly and is aware of all of its environment, blah blah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I what it's saying is it can use all this data to apply to the propulsion system to make piston cars more efficient, but it can also be used in EVs and hybrids, and it takes in everything going on. In fact, it says we have been doing this for a long time, but up until now the problem has been that each sensor creates up to 1 terabyte per hour.
I know,
of data,
that's the thing. Yeah.
And there are multiple sensors.
Yeah.
So that's like downloading 50 films on a short on an hour's journey or something.
Yeah.
High
no,
res.
it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. No, it's bonkers. I mean, all the autonomous cars I've been in, the back of them has been full, like a sort of when you in the movie where Mel Gibson finds the hacker in the basement and he's surrounded by flashing boxes with little lights on. That was the back of the car. I mean, it was monstrous amounts of computers
and thick cables.
And thick cables and lots of little. I like little. I mean, I've always wanted to live in a room full of little LED light clusters that are going up and down because of the sheer tonnage of data they're processing.
I like a flashing LED. I have to say, I had those on the BMS of my electric race car for each cell, so each cell could communicate. So you got a visual representation of all the little worker bees, what they were doing.
Yeah.
And when you were charging and balancing and stuff.
Yeah.
One thing that I would say that seems to be at the CES, which is a little bit more down to earth and maybe relevant, is the French parts supplier called Valeo or Valeo.
Which I've heard of. Yeah, I don't know how you say it. Valeo. I think. Yeah.
If you go out into a car park now, and you'll see almost certainly a headlight of a car or an indicator
and it's made by them.
Valeo.
Yeah.
They have unveiled a low voltage electric city car.
Yeah,
that could be sold for as little as £6,500 new. Now, it's a two-seater Chinese developed. It's co-developed with the Shanghai Jiao Tong University, I think you call it.
Yeah.
Much better sounding university than the one I went to. And I didn't even finish going there, but that's another story. And it's based on an existing Chinese city car called a Zidou, I think ZHIDOU, and weirdly, I'm certain that me and Stuart saw one of those when we were filming in Korea for Fully Charged, doing the E-Nero. I'm sure we saw one at the side of the street because I couldn't work out what it was. It's tiny, so it's using one of those with all the internal components supplied by Valeo.
Right.
And it's 48 volts, single motor, 48 volts, so not 300, not 400 volts.
No, it's gone the other way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so as opposed to a high voltage, so it doesn't need a lot of the safety systems which high voltage stuff needs.
Yeah.
And it's designed to do
cheaper to make.
Yeah, designed to do 62-mile range in an urban environment, up to 62 miles an hour, which is probably totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
When you see the size of it, so could it be a perfect little city hack?
Yeah,
that's hopefully safer than something like a G-Wiz, because it is small. I think it's the same size or smaller than a G-Wiz. It's
it's kind
small
of
thing.
It does look it does look kind of. It might be sort of smart car size, but if you saw one, you think it was really tiny. It's very hard to tell from the picture.
Yeah, and
how big it is.
Yes, you could say, but Smart already make an electric car, but a smart electric car's double that money. I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what I'm interested in this year. Because I mean, I'm really pleased that Mercedes and Audi and Jag are making all those big cars. But what I'm interested in is the VW ID, the Honda Urban, which we're going to go and see soon, aren't we? And,
oh my gosh, yes! Just
got
some
those
news
ones
about that yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah,
that I'm
really
trembling
exciting.
with excitement about.
So it's kind of cars that are around £20,000 UK or less, so €20,000, sort of roughly the 20,000 branch, because there's so many now that are around the
65
mark
is when people's eyes tend to prick up. Prick up? Your eyes just don't prick up. It's your ears.
Well, I mine do sometimes on a bad day.
And that's the kind of price point which I would personally say is a realistic amount of money for most people to be buying a new car at.
Yeah.
Interesting that the Valeo have gone for this. I suspect, and this is just my hunch, that maybe they're going to bring them in to France and the rest of Europe as these sort of sans permis style cars that you can get in France. You know, that band drivers can drive in France and teenagers under 18 can drive.
Yes.
That are just random old, strange contraptions. They're like a quadricycle, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're like a Twizy that's had no thought put into it.
Yes. I mean, it is those things. I mean, I think those are really interesting. Someone's going to come up with the one like the Schneider Electric, that little 4-wheel electric pedal assist single seat thing I had to go on. That was the amount of interest in that episode has been phenomenal. And they are now starting to actually produce those as commercially. I think they've cottoned on. Oh, I see. People actually want this because it was a brilliant little thing. It was so comfortable. It was such a weird thing. You kind of think, it's a quirky, weird thing. When you're actually in it and pedaling,
it's fun.
It's amazing. Really comfortable. You have to pedal or it won't go. It doesn't drive itself. It is a pedalless sit. They didn't have an override button where you could do anything. But the pedaling was like pedaling on a slight downhill slope on a bike. It was really easy, and it would. And if you pedaled hard, it would really shift. But just to move along, your legs are going round just about, and it's pushing you along. And that had like a 50-mile range on a really small battery pack.
Well, there you go.
The only problem with it was it's where you put it when you're not riding it. It's that sort of thing. Because with a bike, you can take it in a house or you can wheel it around the back. That thing was small car-sized in effect, so you'd have to kind of park it somewhere. That was there.
Well, but anyway, propulsion is allowing us to be more experimental with in-betweeny vehicles. Is it a motorbike? Is it an e-bike? Is it a quadricycle? Is it a small car?
Yeah.
And I think, like you say, some of them are brilliant, and some of them are just horrible.
The Sinclair C5 for me was a classic example of a perfect electric vehicle.
The number of people that think, I guess they look at my taste in cars and my appreciation for the left field, and they presume that I would want a Sinclair C5. I get people forwarding me links to eBay going, there's one for sale. You look like the kind of guy that would have that. And I'm like, no, actually, I draw the line. I draw the line at things like the Sinclair C5 and also the Morris Ital. I like some bad stuff, but not that bad.
You've got limits.
No, I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that.
I once had to ride a Sinclair C5, and not that long ago. I mean, not when it was out originally. Once it was hugely embarrassing, and I had to run around Notting Hill of all places for a TV show. And it was sort of funny, and I'd ride past the camera, and that was funny. But then I had to go around the corner, and then they were going to get a long shot of me down the street. Well, that street had lots of young, fashionable, wealthy people who looked at me. Some of them, it's that awful thing where that recognition thing when you've been on the telly. Sometimes people recognise you. I swear, all those people on that bloody street knew who I was and recognised me, and were going, the sad, tragic old man. Because I felt like such a moron on this ridiculous, clunky, dreadful thing.
The television robot man.
Yeah,
is riding around on a shit 80s.
He thinks he's being cool riding around Notting Hill and that thing. It's just it was very embarrassing.
I feel your pain on that.
Yeah, I think we've fulfilled our role to produce a podcast, Johnny. I think we've got way over time.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
I was just starting to enjoy it.
We're just enjoying it. I know. Which is a good sign. That's a good thing. It means we want to do it again. But I think we should wind it up.
Okay.
But before we forget, which of course I have done, one of the things that's important, I tell you what I want to do just before we go is my a thing. I want to do this thing. We're going to try and sort this out, but it's my apology of the week. This was a suggestion from someone on the comments, because I always make every episode we do something, we say something wrong.
Gaff of the week.
Yeah, this huge new Jaguar has got a battery with 3 kilowatts of energy stored in its hour. We'll just get it really kind of.
But that's what. At least you're willing to do that.
Yeah.
You're willing to apologise. I like.
So I want to do my little song, which is called Robert's Apology of the Week, and here, I'll just do it now.
Didn't we have a lovely time checking all the facts? We gave them to Robert and he blabs them out, and then we all relax. Then when we check, he screwed up and made a horrible mess, which generates comments, he's blown it again, and then he must confess. It's guilt time, and here is what I seek. Something to say sorry for, it's the apology of the week. The apology of the week. I'm sorry.
My apology for this week is that I referred to the brand new electric Mini with the new design of the big electric Mini, like the Mini Countryman that you reviewed, the plug-in hybrid. I referred to that Mini as the classic Mini. And I've been,
I should not have done that.
No. I mean, I wouldn't classify it as a crime, but as a serious offence against anyone who knows anything about cars.
As any car pervert, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was like using really bad language in a primary school. It's just wrong. I should not have said classic Mini.
But to your credit, the Mini 1, let's call it, which came out in 2001, is a classic in its own right now.
Ah.
So, you in a court of law, you could argue it is a classic Mini, but it's the classic new Mini.
Yes. It was wrong of me.
Yeah. It's a bit like, I guess, when people argue about, who are the original Fleetwood Mac. Is it the ones that were just blokes doing blues,
but I mean,
or was it the ones with ladies in?
Yeah, but when you think of those arguments, they're nothing like the arguments I've heard in a Suffolk pub about the original members of Faraday Past.
Oh.
Because that row, that ended up in a massive punch-up. Someone got a load of cider thrown in their face. They all went out in the car park and stood on one leg. It was extraordinary.
It makes any feud involving Fleetwood Mac just seem like some sort of playgroup, like crying fit.
Because the serious fans of Faraday Past they basically don't have a sense of humour. I think that's fair to say.
No, well, I think ever since Jeremiah McWhistle, ever since Jeremiah McWhistle just departed, and obviously, as you know, hasn't spoken to the group in 30 years.
No, he's lived in an oak tree in Savannah Forest ever since.
Self-carved. Self-carved. He carved enough of a hole to get his head in, and then just kept going.
Spends his days on his hands and knees with his head in a hole in a tree.
Yeah. And it's sad because the whole, Faraday Past was all about celebrating freedom and
nature and
being slightly suspicious of modern machinery, but and now it's all ended very it's quite sad, really.
But anyway, before we go now, I've done my apology of the week. Just to remind you, if you're interested at all, if you would ever want to hear us discussing these complex topics again, please do subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, even. But also, because I use a what do you call it? One of those downloady podcasty apps. I don't know what it is, but it just does it automatically.
What it is?
I don't know what it is, but every now and then it goes, "Oh, a new podcast is downloaded for you, sir." And that makes me feel very relaxed. So, it's easy to do. It's not, even if I can do it, and I didn't have any help from the amazing
grown-ups.
Technical team of young grown-ups, fully charged. I did that on my own.
This is our first fully charged podcast, so please be gentle with us. If you'd like to leave us a rating, try and leave us a good one, and write a review. What you'd like to hear more of, what you liked, maybe what you didn't. And why not share this episode with other friends if you've got any?
Yeah, because I can't do that. I don't have any friends, but I know I've met people who do have friends.
Yeah,
they tell them
things. Share it. By all means, share it and review it and rate it.
Yes. And we also really want to thank I'm not going to read out lists of names on here because that's not fair. They've got to get their proper name check on the show. But we really want to thank our Patreon supporters who make our YouTube channel and even the podcast happen. Because we've had quite a nice increase in Patreon supporters recently, which is really amazing and really helpful and hopeful and marvellous.
Thank you. Yeah, because without you, we couldn't do the web stuff, we couldn't do the videos or any of these podcasts. So, and hopefully the podcasts are going to be listened to at a semi-boring time, like when you're driving on a boring commute. Or
in your electric
you're on a
car.
Train.
Yeah,
you could be in an electric car. You could be on an electric train.
Yeah,
you could be in a diesel bus.
You could be in a diesel bus, but you might soon be on an electric bus, which would be marvellous.
Yeah, or you're riding through a park or a meadow.
You could be because I used to go for walks around where I live out in the sticks with headphones on, listening to podcasts, and with the dogs when we still had dogs. And then I went, that's kind of annoying because I'm not really here.
You're not enjoying nature.
Yeah, so if you're somewhere nice, you don't want to do it. But so I'd suggest if you're in a meadow, listen to the warble of the song thrush and the peewit and the skylark.
I'm actually looking at chaffinches as I talk to you.
Oh, are you? God.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to spot a wren. Well, we're really going off topic now because I was given a book on wrens by my wife for Christmas.
What? Just wrens?
Just wrens. I have no idea.
As in, people with the surname Wren?
No,
or
the actual bird,
birds?
the little bird, because they're tiny. And I love a wren when I see one, but I haven't spotted one.
They're feisty. They're small but
feisty
feisty. I
little
like
fellas,
that. Yeah, them and robins. They're like little street
Yeah.
fighters.
Yeah.
I like.
Now, we've got some good robins. We've got robin either side of the house, and they don't get on. But mostly I try and keep them apart. You know, they like to have. I can tell they're
That's brilliant.
they're up for a tussle. But anyway, so we now can't talk about birds. I'm trying to finish. That's the thing.
Well, let's finish. As always, if you have been,
Yes.
thank you for
listening. Marvellous.